You're listening to Interactive Wrestling Radio, featuring the Interactive Interview, courtesy of WrestlingEpicenter.com.
Hello.
Hey, this is James Walsh from the Wrestling Epicenter.
Hey, brother. How you doing?
Doing all right, doing all right. You ready to get this going?
Sure, wherever you are.
Yeah, I plan on maybe about 15, 20 minutes, if that's okay.
That's okay.
All right. And let's see here. I'm just making sure everything is looking good on my recordings, which looks okay to me. All right. And I blew up my text here so I don't have to squint reading my notes. All right, you ready to get started?
Sure, brother. Go ahead.
All right, we'll get started here in 5, 4, 3, 2. Welcome back to Interactive Wrestling Radio. Joining us on the Newsmaker line is a General Hospital enthusiast and former professional wrestling star from World Championship Wrestling and Jim Crockett Promotions. You might recognize his look. He is Randy Hogan. Are you with me, sir?
I'm with you, brother.
It's such a pleasure to have you. It's a pleasure to have you on. Yeah, absolutely. All right.
Thank you.
So I've done my research leading into this interview. I've watched. Yeah, yep. I've watched a lot of the.
Everything you read.
Well, I've watched a lot of interviews that you did. I've listened to them. I've read some text ones, and basically, I'd like to get the same question asked that everybody else asked, but maybe phrase it a little differently. What was it about professional wrestling that made you fall in love with it? And I know you've been a fan since you were a kid.
Well, when I started, was first exposed to it by my grandparents when I was probably about 7 years old or whatever. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't remember what got me hooked on it. Mm-hmm. I think it was probably the characters at the time and the enthusiasm. My grandparents believed every punch was for real, okay? Mm-hmm. So that's the environment I grew up on. And every Saturday morning or whatever it was, we'd be in front of the TV and watching our favorites like the original Sheik and Bobo Brazil and Dick the Bruiser and Killer Kowalski and on like that. And part of the things lacking today, people say, are storylines, you know, ongoing storylines, which kind of died with the territories when Vince took over the world. But I think the storylines and the characters, and I just followed them and got hooked. It's like they said pro wrestling is like a man's soap opera.
That's right.
And,
speaking of General Hospital.
Oh, yeah, or As the World Turns, I mean, name it.
Right.
So I think that I just got caught up in it, and I think if you get caught on something as a kid, it just carries through in life. So I was the biggest, to this day, the biggest fan out there. So that's what sparked my interest was my grandparents, and I think it was the characters and the stories, and because you'd watch it on TV, and then up in Detroit it was the Olympia Stadium at first, and then Cobo Hall. So you'd watch it on TV, and that would build up to the big match at the show, which we'd go to.
That would have been the days.
That's how it all got sparked.
Would that have been the days of the Sheik with the Cobo Hall?
Oh, yes. And before the Sheik, when it was Dick the Bruiser.
Dick the Bruiser, yeah.
Pat O'Connor. Buddy Rogers came through there. Bruno Sammartino, I think, came through there once or twice at the time.
Absolutely.
But, it started at the Olympia, and then they built Cobo, which was, you know, the newest big thing. And somewhere in between there is when the Sheik actually took over the promotion.
There you go.
And along with a guy named Francis Fleischer, I think his name was.
Awesome. So as a kid, I'll tell you, I'm 40, so I grew up, you know, in the 80s and 90s. That was my favorite time when I was a kid watching wrestling. And when I'd see you come on the TV, they'd go, Randy Hogan, and you'd kind of look at them like, okay, that they could be related. So what made the connection? Where did the name Randy Hogan come from, and the connection that, hey, this guy might be, you know, somehow related to Hulk Hogan in some way?
I'm sorry, man, I got cut off there for a minute. Okay, anyways, I'm sorry, what was your last comment?
I said no, so when I was a kid, I would be watching, and I'd see you come on the screen, and I'd think, well, it's possible. It's possible that they're related. They do look a lot alike. Where did the idea to kind of say, well, this guy might be related to Hulk Hogan come from?
I think part of it was the look. I mean, I wasn't as big as him or nothing, you know.
Right.
I had blonde hair, and I've always had that mustache. I grew that when I was like, I don't know, 20 years old. When I got out of, about 20 years old when I got out of boot camp and was in the service. Anyways, so I've always had the mustache, but I had dark brown hair and stuff. And after I got into the business and knew what I thought was everything I needed to know and really didn't care to ever be a wrestler, I thought of a friend of mine that I had trained with, and he's putting up the ring. And I said, God, what are you doing, Bill? He says, well, I'm wrestling this little town up in Athens, Georgia. I think, or Athens, Georgia. And he said, why don't you come up, bring your stuff? And I said, well, I'm not going to bring my stuff, but I'd love to come up and watch you. So I went a couple of times, and then he taught me to bring him my stuff. I had been in the ring probably for 7, 8, 9 months, and somebody didn't show up. So the promoter guy said, do you want to order? And I said, well, sure. Scared to death. Knew nothing. He said, okay, you're going to wrestle this guy named Animal, and Animal is going to go over. So I go back to the locker room with my buddy Bill. I said, Bill, I'm wrestling this guy named Animal, and he's going over. What does that mean? Does that mean he's going over the top rope? I'm going over. What does going over mean? I didn't even know that means he was going to win. So that's how great I was, yeah. So I wrestled the match, and I did okay. And the guy says, you want to come back next week? And now, again, this is, as they say, the hot dog and a handshake, although I didn't get the hot dog type thing. But for fun, I said, yeah, I'll come back next week. And he said, you look a little bit like that Hulk Hogan guy. Now, Hulk was he wasn't mainstream popularity yet, but he was on his way.
Right.
So he said, we're going to make you his nephew or something, and we're going to call you Hal Hogan. I said, okay. So I thought about it a bit. And then I called him up. I said, I don't mind the Hogan thing. I'll do whatever you want me to do. But can we drop the Hal? Because, I wouldn't know who the hell they were talking about. So I said, how about just Randy? He says, okay, you're going to be Randy Hogan.
That's
works. How it started.
That's awesome. Now, your career, I've heard you say in the other interviews that you don't mind the term jobber. Some other guys shy away from it. Why don't you take offense to it when other guys do?
A couple of reasons. First of all, right now, what are you doing? You're working, right?
Right.
Okay, that means you got a job, right?
That's right.
Don't that make you a jobber?
I guess so, yeah.
Well, there you go.
There you go.
We're all doing a job, and we did a job, Now, if there's other terms associated with that, so be it. But basically, we're all jobbers, Are we all enhancement talents? For the most part, because we enhanced whatever they were pushing as a gimmick with a person that we were working with. If he was a kind of like Vader or something who was just famous for killing the jobbers or whatever, so be it. You go in there, you're a piece of meat. He kills you for 2 or 3 minutes, and you get your money and you go home. You do what you're told. But in that case, I had to enhance how mean and strong he really was. Also, they'll call you carpenters. That's true, because we do build the stars. I can't think of any other, because there's probably a bunch of other names. Also. But anyway, so call me enhancement, call me a jobber, tomato, tomato. It makes no difference to me. I was proud to do what I did.
Absolutely. And you mentioned Vader, and there's actually it's up on YouTube, a match where you took on Vader, and yeah, it looked brutal. He looked like he was hurting you.
He did.
Oh boy. It had an interesting finish to the match where you just couldn't get up. They didn't just do a pinfall finish. Different. It was different.
I tell you, I don't know if Teddy Long was the referee, who the referee was in that. But anyways, he gave me 2 or 3 of those monkey bombs or whatever those things are.
Yeah, Vader bombs, yeah.
And he said, just stay there, stay there. You know, and I knew what they're trying to do with Vader. He's supposed to be invincible. He's supposed to kill little jerks like me. So, you know, they said, stay down. So I stayed down. Well, the guys in the back thought it was, I was legitimately hurt. That's why a couple other referees and everybody came out to the ring to assist me, because they thought I was legit hurt.
Oh, boy.
And I was banged up, but again, old school, you don't complain, you don't say nothing. You go back into the locker room, you thank the guy for the match, you know, you might have a little chit-chat, and that's it. So, but, yeah, that was definitely a shoot. He had me in the corner, I think, at one point, and he was, like, punching me.
Yeah,
Those punches were real, were off the top of the head. So I started sliding down the corner, you know, like to get out of the way.
Yeah.
And he started punching up, like lifting me up with his punches. So, yeah, he was not nice to work.
Yeah.
I'll leave it at that. He was probably my toughest match I was ever in. Next to him was probably Abdullah the Butcher. And Rick Steiner was pretty stiff, too, at first. But those are the 3 that come to mind as far as being the legit stiffest matches of my career.
You mentioned Animal earlier on. Would that be Road Warrior Animal?
Yes. Oh, no. This was
okay.
This place in Athens was a little bar, and it probably had 30 drunks sitting at the bar, and we were set up on the dance floor.
Oh, well, that works.
So there was no names, there was no nothing. I don't know if anybody got paid, but no, he used the name Animal.
There you go. No, the reason I ask is because I've heard people say that they were known for taking liberties, if you will, with some of the enhancement talent. So I thought if that ever happened with you, I don't know if you ever crossed paths with them.
Never with me.
Never with you?
I worked them probably 3 or 4 times, and they were as easy as possible. Although if you think of their matches when they were just on their way up, not WWE, but especially WCW days or NWA days, when they rushed the ring, they threw one guy out, they punched another guy, and put him on Animal's shoulders, and Hawk would come off the top rope with a clothesline, and that was it. The longest matches they had, I think, were like 2 minutes or so. Well, the first time I worked them, I took that clothesline finish off the end and everything. And the more you're there, they get to know you a little bit. They know what you can do, what you can't do, what you're willing to do, and some guys are not willing to do. And like I said, I never complained. I always tried to handle myself in a very professional manner. It was business, la-di-da-di-da. So after the first time, I think they trusted me. So now I was the guy that they'd rush the ring, they'd throw out of the ring, and that was it. So I got paid a couple $100, and all they did is throw me from the inside of the ring to the outside. No punch, no kick, no nothing. Just throw me through the ropes. Pick up my check, go home.
Very cool. And Jim Cornette is somebody that, likely because his podcast is just gigantic, but yeah, he talked about you on his podcast a few years ago, and he said that, you know, he had no idea what you were doing now. I hope you guys have reconnected since then, but yeah.
We have through media.
Oh, good. But yeah, well, Jim Cornette was an interesting guy. What did you think of what he had to say about you as a talent on that podcast clip?
I don't remember much of it. I think I remember the part where he didn't know what I was doing now, and I was a really nice guy, and I don't know if he talked about wrestling or ability or anything, but he was absolutely wonderful to me. Same thing. I got in there with the Midnight Express, did what they wanted, didn't, of course, nothing to complain about with them.
Yeah, one of the best of all time, that's for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Bobby Eaton is the one that I really learned how to sell from. Bobby Eaton sold better than anybody. You know, I hate to watch it, especially today, is where, let's say, guys in the corner, Another guy's punching him in the face.
Mm.
Now, if I punched you in the face, wouldn't your hand go up like, ouch, like to grab your face or something?
Right, yes.
These guys never, it's nothing, you know? They'll do something, and the guy's in the middle of the ring, and he's just staggered, can barely stand up. And then he throws that guy in the ropes, and he's doing drop kicks and running the corners and stuff. It was just all storytelling and selling. That's the biggest thing I think that's lacking today. You know, everybody kicks out of everybody's finishes and that, but after the first time I worked the Midnight Express and talked to Cornette a little bit, then every time I'd go and they were putting the matches together, Cornette would say, well, let us work with Randy. That's why I think I had 7 or 8 TV matches over the few-year period with the Midnight Expresses because they liked working with me. And the big guys used to have that pull once in a while. It was the same with Sting. Mm-hmm. I got the same kind of thing. Sting said, let me work Hogan. It's like Ric Flair used to like to work George South. Mm-hmm. You know George South?
I remember George South, yeah.
Yeah, he was another just big jobber of the time.
Mm-hmm.
But the Flair loved to work him. So anytime Flair was doing a TV thing, he got him. So, but I was pretty lucky. I got some good guys to work with. And the other guys, the guys they didn't like, the guys that were new, whatever, they got the Vaders and the Steiners the first time in, or it was Rick Steiner at the time. Mm-hmm. Scott, I think, was in Memphis, and Rick Steiner was doing the Varsity Club with Dr. D, Steve Williams, and Kevin Sullivan. Yeah, there was the 3 of them, I think.
Yep, I think that's and Mike Rotunda was in there too, I think.
Mike Rotunda, yes.
There you go. Now you mentioned.
Go ahead.
You mentioned modern wrestling, and that job doesn't exist anymore. Not really, anyway. The job of the enhancement star, and I think
very few do you see.
And it seems to me like they just think that if they put a match like that on, that they wouldn't keep the people's attention. But I think that it's probably the opposite, because for years it was used as a way to build the guys up, and now they don't have that because every match has to be, not to quote Cornette, but the main event of Starrcade. And it's like, well, not everything has to be like that. What do you think of the lack of enhancement talent?
Well, I think the business over the last 10 years, 15 years, maybe even 20 years or so, the fans have pretty much been poisoned, okay? The guys that are even our age, and you're young enough to be my kid, but that are hardcore fans and know a little bit about the history and have watched some of the old stuff, so they know what these old-timers are talking about when they say, storylines and selling and all this kind of stuff. Today's youth are just poisoned, okay? Mm-hmm. They're raised on guys going up and doing 10 false finishes and 15 monkey flips off of the scaffold that's 12 stories high in a hotel somewhere or whatever. But they're just so poisoned by this that the art of professional wrestling has been lost. You know, now think back at any recent matches, especially the girls. How many are doing kicks? I mean, like super kicks or just kind of roundhouse kicks, whatever. Mm-hmm. The only people who used to kick were the Japanese wrestlers that come over, the Mitsu Arakawas and people. They're the only ones that did kicks, which was related to the judo and the karate and the Asian influence. Now, everybody is kicking everybody. Mm-hmm. I try to watch a match, girls, guys, AEW, it doesn't matter, WWE, and how many real wrestling moves do you see? You know, when they used to take a hammerlock, they'd work that until you thought they was going to rip their arm off.
Right.
Working a headlock even, headlock takeovers, just any kind of wrestling moves. Right now, you've got kicks You've got punches, and you've got guys flipping and flying over the top rope or through the ropes for whatever the reason. And that is the majority of every match you will see on TV. Keep that in mind next time.
Exactly. Completely agree. So you told a story on another interview, and I wanted to kind of go over it with you, with the ticker tape parade when Hulk Hogan had signed with WCW, and that you guys crossed paths during that ticker tape parade and all that.
We acknowledged each other.
That was kind of cool. And I guess my question would be, shortly thereafter, they brought in a character that was like a Hulk Hogan sycophant. He had been there for a while, the Equalizer, Dave Sullivan, who was football coach now, Bill Dannenauer.
Yes.
So he
did a takeoff on Hogan.
He did a takeoff on Hogan, and he kind of changed his look to more reflect Hogan. He was not too far off to begin with, but he went the full hog with it, similar to with yours a little bit. Maybe looked a little bit closer to what you looked like.
He was bigger. He didn't have the muscles, but he was bigger.
He was a bigger guy, yeah. So did you kind of hope that maybe that would be something they would have done with you, or did that not ever cross your mind at all?
Well, if you've watched any of my older matches, whatever, I never did the Hulk Hogan thing.
Right.
I had the hair, I had the mustache, which was just naturally me, okay?
Right.
The Hogan name was given to me, but I always wore turquoise trunks and turquoise boots. The house shows I had, which I still have, a black velvet sequined robe that had a matching turquoise interior to it. So I never did the red, the yellow, the bandana, the sunglasses, all that kind of stuff. Never did it until a couple of years ago. And that was because a vendor wanted me to do that at a convention, actually the big event in New York.
Right, right.
So he brought me in and said, and I said, well, that's fine. This is my first convention. And he said, by the way, can you do that Hulk Hogan gimmick? And I said, well, sure, I could. So I got some stuff that I didn't have and put on the whole Hulk Hogan thing, from the bandana to the glasses to the tights, and I still have Randomania T-shirts that I sell on my website.
That's awesome.
And I took my beautiful turquoise boots. The only person that had boots that color was Ric Flair.
That's right, yeah.
Made by the same guy, a little Mexican guy down in Texas. He made our boots for us. Anyways, I took my boots and I dyed them yellow.
Oh.
Actually, it's almost like a paint, an acrylic leather paint on it. And the woman that did it for me said it took 13 coats of paint to cover up the
turquoise.
The turquoise patent leather. So, anyways, that's why I started doing it.
Awesome. How has the reaction been to doing that? And do you enjoy doing that kind of?
Well, I don't really know, because convention-wise, now I never did that gimmick, never ever in my wrestling career. I always did the turquoise. So when I did this convention, and they put the picture on social media, and it gets picked up, and there's a lot of jokes on there too, like Aldi's brand, or when you get the cheaper brand or cheaper cut or something that shows a picture of me rather than Hulk. That's okay. That stuff don't bother me either. But once I started doing this in the conventions, and I'd sell pictures and people would see it, they expected me to do that. I think what's happened now, though, now that other things have picked up, like your Comic-Cons and that, I'm becoming more, this is in my mind, more of like a cosplayer,
Yeah.
More like just a guy that dresses up as Hogan. Good friend of mine, Macho Man, okay? Lives out in Vegas. Does the absolute best Macho impersonations. I did a convention with him, too. And so we went as the Mega Powers 2.0. And he was doing the Macho Man stuff, and I was doing the Hogan stuff. And but it went over as far as people looking at it and laughing and saying, hey, that's great, la-di-da-di-da. But it wasn't selling pictures or much merchandise. And it came to me that the Macho Man guy was never a wrestler.
Ah.
So, these people that go to conventions want to meet and get autographs and pictures with the real wrestlers, whether it be old ones they remember or the new ones. Well, here's two guys, one dressed up like Hulk Hogan, that doesn't really look much like him, and one guy dressed up like Macho Man, who looks just like Randy Savage, but never wrestled. So we were just like people in gimmick costumes. So I think that actually hurt me. So I'm doing a convention in October up in Rome, Georgia.
Home of Arn Anderson.
There you go. And anyways, he said, what do you bring with you? I said, well, I got all my gimmick stuff in there. He said, do you still have your black robe? And I said, sure. He said, guys like me, and he's about your age. He said, but guys like me remember you like that.
Right.
Not as a Hulk Hogan, try to want to be your lookalike, whatever. So he said, could you wear that? So I said, yeah, I could. So I figured what I'll wear is my black Hogan outfit, which is, like the NWO shirts. Well, I got the HWO. It was a kind of a signature Randy Hogan on it. And I got the black tights and everything. So I'm going to wear that underneath my robe. So I'll have some of the Hogan stuff on with a bandana, but I'll still have the black robe that they remember me in.
That's awesome.
But that's the whole Hogan gimmick.
That's awesome. And there is a nostalgia for the guys that we grew up watching. I mean, you mentioned it previously, but Mike Jackson, a guy who is 70 years old.
He's going to be in Rome, too. I shared a table with him last year.
That's awesome. And I mean, he got to wrestle on AEW and Impact Wrestling as recently as last year.
He did great for 70, I think, 1 year old at the time.
Yeah, he walked the ropes. I remember he did like the Undertaker walk the ropes. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Mike was absolutely wonderful. Mike's the first one that got me on TV, actually.
Oh.
I owe it all to him.
That's incredible. You find that nostalgia still grows strong with the people of my age group, that we're still looking forward to seeing the guys that we grew up watching? No?
Unfortunately, no. And because the fan base for guys like me in my time is dwindling, this is going to be my last year, I think, of even doing conventions.
Oh, man.
Because it's just really not worth it anymore. Today, at the conventions, and this is across the board, the number one thing that's making money is the girls. If they've never been on TV, it don't matter. If they're on mainstream TV, it don't matter. If they're on these little internet shows, I call them, which is like NWA Dark or AEW Dark and NWA Power and whatever, all the Impact, all these little things that you can see, but not on mainstream TV. If I tell you, I could take a hot-looking girl, put her in a skimpy outfit, put her behind the table. Now, she don't know the first thing about wrestling. She don't know a wrist lock from a wrist watch, okay? She's behind the table, and I would sell pictures. And yet you got a guy like me or George South or the Italian Stallion or whatever. We're sitting back there sometimes twiddling our thumbs. Because your average person going to these conventions is either your age or younger, raised on WWE for the most part. And they don't even know of guys like me. And if they do, they know us in the light of almost being a joke and, they can't do anything. Only the hardcore ones realize what enhancement or jobbers really were, what their jobs were, and in a lot of cases were more talented than the guys they were putting over.
Exactly.
So I think just a lot of guys don't know. But anyways, this year, for the first time, I'm going to go in old school gimmick up there in Rome.
That's
Rome, Georgia.
Rome, Georgia. Yep. Like I said, the home of Arn Anderson. I remember.
Yep.
That sticks with me. All right. Well, you mentioned that this will probably be your last year of doing this, but you are accepting bookings. So how can people get in contact with you if they did want to bring you in for a convention? And is wrestling totally out of the question for you?
Wrestling is out of the question for me.
Okay.
Right now, I'm just graduating slowly from a walker to a cane. Mm-hmm. I had, last year this is all wrestling related, back surgery. So they fused 6 of my vertebrae, my thoracic area, in a rod and pins. Mm-hmm. Then last September, I had my neck done. I had 4 bulging discs. Same thing. They put the rod in and the screws. Mm-hmm. Still didn't fix me. It's all nerve damage. With nerves, they can't tell, first of all, if they're fixed or not. Second of all, they can't zero in exactly where it is. So I still got the pain, which affects my walking, my balance, and everything else. So I'm looking at another surgery sometime in the very near future on my lumbar area. And that will either put me on the road to total recovery, or I'll be in one of those little scooter things the rest of my life. So,
hover around.
So taking any more bumps, man, in my head, I would get in the ring yesterday. But my body says, no way. So that's the true thing. And they say wrestling's fake.
Right.
And I see what Dr. D. David Schultz did when he smacked Stossel. Is that fake? That's what I want to do every time somebody says it's fake.
I got a
living proof it's not.
Absolutely. I got a friend, Rod Price, who's been wrestling for a long time. And he played
still
the NFL. Yeah, he's still a big boy. He played for the NFL, and every now and again he'll post something. Today's a rough day, and I always ask him, what hurt you worse, wrestling or football? He said they both hurt me, but wrestling did more damage to me. But yeah, absolutely true.
Well, when we're doing it, you got to figure we're in great shape. We're a lot younger. In fact, I was over 30 years younger. I'll be 72 this year. And when we were younger, we didn't pay no attention to it. You know, it was fun. You were glad to be there. Like I said, I don't care if I was a jobber or if I was an independent show and I was the local champion. It made no difference to me. I loved it. But I never felt any of them bumps until I hit about 65, 66 years old. Then I started feeling every bump I took, every punch from Vader, every kendo stick to the back from Abdul the Butcher. I feel every one of them now, and I never felt them back then. So I'm sure Rod Price would tell you the same thing.
Absolutely. Where could you? So where can people that want to bring you in for those conventions? How could they get in contact with you?
It's real simple. Okay, if they put in, if you want anything to do with Randy Hogan, any Randy Hogan stuff, go to Facebook. Go into Randy Hogan stuff. That's it. You'll see where I'm coming. You'll see some old stuff. You'll see all my merchandise. Everything under Randy Hogan stuff. That's where you find Randy Hogan stuff.
That's awesome. All right, man. Well, I want to stop and thank you for taking the time to do this with me. It really was a pleasure.
My pleasure. My pleasure. I could go on and on. Sometimes I run the mouth too much.
Not at all. It really was an honor and a pleasure to have you on, and I do appreciate it. I must admit, I didn't expect a few of the answers, like the nostalgia not being as strong. I didn't expect those things. So
Well, when I started doing it, I didn't expect those things either, because I'm a fan of the old stuff. You know, you put some of the old popular guys in there. You know, the Roddy Garvin's or whatever, and I'd think, God, these guys are gonna go crazy. But they don't. The ones who are going crazy are the ones that made the switch to WWF, like Demolition, Barry Darso, who was a million different gimmicks.
Yep.
Your Repo Man, your Demolition, your whatever the golf gimmick was he did.
Crusher Khrushchev.
Yes, all that stuff. But he's not popular for any of those things. Everybody knows him, and his whole gimmick that they do at every single convention, and everyone they're at, or everyone I'm at, they're always there. It's always just Demolition. So
there you go.
Dinosaurs like me are just kind of kind of dying off in popularity as well as physically dying off. So, so it's just waiting a little bit. But you know, when a fan contacts me, and I mean, I'm easy to find. I'm easy to get. If you direct message me, I'll always message it back. I'm always on social media back and forth. So when we hear from a fan, whether it's good or bad, but especially when it's something good, hey, I used to watch you with my dad or my grandpa or whatever, you have no idea how much good that does to us.
Wow.
It brings tears to your eyes. It really, really does.
That's incredible. That's so awesome.
So thank you, and thank you, the fans. And I hope, you know, you'll bring your soul guy on again in your show anytime.
Anytime you want to come on. I hate to say it, but what you're saying sounds like a scene out of The Wrestler with Ricky Rourke.
And let me tell you, I'll make this short. That's my life story. Think about it. He wrestled. Because of that, he lost his family. Then he had a heart attack. And then he went back and wrestled after that anyway. He still ended up losing it. And, of course, his name was Randy.
That's true.
Go figure all that. Every bit of that is absolutely true.
That is, yeah, definitely haunting now that I've spoken to you. That definitely is going to ring true every time I watch it in the future. All right, sir.
Every one of those things is true.
I want to thank you again for taking the time to do this. It was a blast. I really do appreciate you, and I will definitely send you a message when I get this posted online.
All right, brother. Please do.
All right.
Thank you so much.
You take care. Enjoy that General Hospital, too.
Oh, man, I'm watching Dr. Phil now.
Dr. Phil, there you go. I don't know any... I can't bring up any old anecdotes about Dr. Phil. I don't have any of those.
We'll work at it for next time.
This is Interactive Wrestling Radio.
Interactive Wrestling Radio. Interactive Wrestling Radio. Interactive Wrestling Radio. Interactive Wrestling Radio. Interactive Wrestling Radio. Interactive Wrestling Radio. Oh, for us.
Featuring the interactive interview.
Interactive interview. Interactive interview. Interactive interview. Interactive interview. Interactive interview. Interactive interview. Oh, yeah.
Formerly The Blaze.
The Blaze. The Blaze. The Blaze. The Blaze. The Blaze. The Blaze. The Blaze. The Blaze. The Blaze. The Blaze rock.
Yo, Maniacs, so what you gonna do when the Blaze of Mania runs wild on you?
On WrestlingEpicenter.com.
Wrestling Epicenter.
Wrestling
Epicenter. Wrestling
Epicenter.
Wrestling Epicenter.
Wrestling Epicenter. The Wrestling Epicenter. Don't get off.
And now we shamelessly name drop from our history.
The Wrestling Epicenter would like to apologize for the following.
All right, everybody. Viva la raza. Viva la raza.
Hey, y'all.
Hello, ladies.
Hey guys, we had a lovely conversation.
First lady.
Absolutely. Oh, look at me. She's so kooky.
Be there. Where else?
Interactive
Wrestling Radio.
Wrestling.
Epicenter.
Oh my God, you win! Wow, being interactive.
I was not shooting. Yeah, I almost missed my fan. Breaking neck. I got 2 words for you. I've heard a lot about you guys. I see my language. You're going to go to the shop. Don't be a no. Into the many.
No nerves.
That was great. It's going to be cool. What it's all about. The purest point of view. The living legend. Champion. Arrogant.
You just make me.
Instead of statement, I'm talking to you.
So lonely without you.
In the land of extreme.
Testify. Nevermore. Interactive interview. I'm not just the best. Interactive interview with a plastic
You
head.
earned the right.
Nobody. You better keep listening. Thank you very much. Controversy creates cash. Professional wrestling.
Made in the USA, baby.
Memphis wrestling. The guy on fire.
I'm not We were sexy.
What a show.
One and only.
Interactive Wrestling Radio.
Wrestling Epicenter.
Interactive interview. We took care of the business. This isn't ballet. We are huge with this whole. You're where it's at. You better recognize who's the best. Make sure to tune in each and every week. I'll come out of your computer, knock down your door, and turn it on for you. Or else I'm going to kick your stinking teeth in. And that's the bottom line. Have a nice day. It's showtime.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.